Plant-based dairy is one of the most rapidly rising sectors of the plant-based movement, not least due to the health and sustainability benefits associated with this as compared to regular dairy. So to find out more about this sector and some of the most beneficial options out there, in this episode of the F&A Deep Dive, we speak to Justin Chan, founder and director of Asia's first pea-based milk firm, Snappea. But first, we find out more about the firm itself.
So in short, Snappea is a pea-focused company. So they aim to advocate the consumption of like one of the most sustainable food sources in the world, which is pea. And we started with producing pea milk to replace consumption of dairy milk. And we are the first in Asia to produce pea milk in this region. And I understand that there are other plant-based milk in the market, but they are always nutritionally inferior compared to cow's milk. So just for example, 1 cup of almond milk only have like 1 gram of protein, which is 8 times less than like dairy milk. And we did our research. We realized that, Snap, that's how we got our name. So we realized that after did our research, we realized the one of the most nutritious and sustainable food sources is pea, and this crop we can use it to produce milk, and that's how we got started and produced plant-based pea milk in the region.
The next thing that I really have to ask is what are the advantages, the benefits of pea-based milk over other types of plant-based milks? Any extra health, sustainability benefits as you mentioned?
I think the main reason why in 2019 I tried to adopt the plant-based diet is mainly because of the sustainable aspect of it. So I think that's the reason why we created Snappea, because we know that it's more sustainable to consume plant-based milk instead of dairy milk. And in terms of nutrition-wise, Snappea is also much better compared to the plant-based milk options out there. Just for example, 1 cup of almond milk only contains like 1 gram of protein, which is 8 times, like I mentioned just now, 8 times less than cow's milk. So at Snappea, all our plant-based milk contains at least 10 grams of plant-based protein, which is 20% higher than dairy milk and 10 times more than almond milk. And it also contains 170 mg of plant-based calcium, which most of the plant-based milk in the market, they don't contain it. And in terms of sustainable aspect of it, so pea is actually one of the most sustainable food sources because pound for pound, peas emit 500 times less carbon emission than beef. So that is the carbon emission part. But in terms of water usage, to produce same amount of protein content, peas uses the least amount of water as well. So compared to all the crops out there. And a lot of times we think that consuming almond milk is sustainable because it's plant-based, but it's actually not true because almond is a very water-intensive crop. If you Google it, it requires up to 4 liters of water to produce just 1 piece of almond. So there's a lot of water resources needed to produce like almonds or nuts in general. So that's why it's not really the best option to produce milk using nuts or almonds in general.
Overall, from your research, what sort of trends are you seeing for plant-based dairy currently in Asia? What do you think is more of a driver for Asian consumers to choose plant-based dairy? Is it health, sustainability, something else, novelty?
To be honest, based on study, right, up to 90% of the Asian population is lactose intolerant to a certain extent, but not sure why we are still drinking milk. Actually, there are a lot of people who want to drink something that tastes something milky, but not necessarily dairy milk. So that's why it opens up a very huge market where people are just looking for some better alternative compared to dairy milk, because they just want the milky taste of it, but not necessarily they want the dairy part in their beverage. So that's why it's a very big market in the sense that we also observe there are a lot of vegetarian and vegan shops popping up. That really helps because that brings up the awareness and also education in terms of like the benefits and the environmental benefits of like plant-based diet in the market, so that people are more aware and more willing to try it.
Okay, on the flip side of that, what do you think are the biggest challenges that the plant-based dairy industry is facing in Asia right now? I mean, things that come to my mind: cost, ingredient sourcing, plain stubbornness, not wanting to change. What amongst these do you think is the main challenge right now?
So I think, as mentioned, one of the biggest challenge would be the education and awareness part, because being the first there's always a disadvantage of it in the sense that you need to do a lot of education so that people are aware there's actually a pea milk options for their milk to consume as a milk beverage. So when we got started, actually it was quite challenging because a lot of people have no expectation of like how a pea milk tastes like. So there are a lot of customers, the first time they try it, they don't actually like it because it's like not sure what it is and stuff. But the more they consume it, the more they got it's kind of like acquired taste. They get used to it and actually they love it and repurchase the products. So I believe the taste of pea is not something that's not acceptable. It's just that we are so used to dairy milk because we have been drinking since we were young. So it just need to have a lot of like sampling, promotion, awareness, so that people are aware actually there are actually a healthier options for us to consume as a milk choice.
How would you say that the markets for plant-based dairy compares in the APAC region between, let's say, Malaysia and Singapore, Vietnam and Australia, different places, are there any particular trends for particular countries that stand out?
I think it comes back to how matured the market is because, for example, like more developed countries like Singapore, Australia, we realize there's not much education needed, and in the sense that people are actually searching for these kind of options. So in the sense that the consumers in this market, the developed markets such as Singapore and Australia, they already have the awareness. They are just looking for options that they can purchase. So on the other hand, for developing countries such as Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand, for example, they need to have some sort of education to know the benefits of like plant-based diet in general, so that once they have the awareness, this to consume less meat and less dairy is actually good for the health and the environment, then only they will search for the products to consume. So it just depend on how mature. The difference I would say would be mainly on the maturity of the market and the awareness part of it.
What sorts of innovation is Snappea currently focusing on to achieve growth in the current market situation based on its challenges, based on COVID-19 and so on?
It's definitely a challenging market currently because it's all the supply side. But we, as mentioned, Snappea is a pea focused company, so there'll be definitely more pea related food innovation that's coming along the years. But however, for the short term wise, we will definitely still focus on the awareness part of it, education, and make Snappea more available through more sales and distribution channels, so that people can, once they heard about pea milk, they can actually grab it in the market. So to make pea milk in general more accessible to more consumers, so the awareness can bring it up to the next level.
What is your opinion on the market outlook for plant-based dairy in general and pea-based milks in particular in the coming year?
I think in general, plant-based milk there's still a lot more to grow, especially in the Asia Pacific region. I think we are just barely started. We are probably like 5 to 10% done. So I foresee there'll be a double-digit growth for the next 5 to 10 years for plant-based milk in general. So there's still a lot more can be done, and definitely we welcome more players in the market so that we can bring the awareness up in this region together.